as an educator, I developed a philosophy here. First of all, I had one educator, Milo Blecka, in the Department of Education. He taught how to teach science in the elementary classroom. He was a magnificent human being. But I remember a couple of professors. Let me go back to the Jim Crow part, because that's a big part of who I am, because black people weren't treated very kindly when I was growing up. And I used to go with a group of people to Tucson City Council to try to change some of those laws, and they would just dismiss us. And I had a political science class, and I remember talking to the prof. I raised my hand and I wanted to tell him about some of the things we were doing. And in a political science class, he said, well, I don't see how that relates to what we're talking about here. I said, well, political and all that. But then I learned, and then another prof gave me an assignment, a research paper. And in that paper, I can't remember what it was, I learned about apartheid in South Africa, and I remember thinking, that's a lot like what I'm going through here, and I was excited. And instead of that being just a regular research paper, like, where you just try to knock the thing out, and, I really got into it, and I mentioned to the professor, and he said, that's not relevant to what we're talking. So what I took from that was, it seems like as an educator, if you don't teach things that are relevant, you're not doing your job. So I learned even when that wasn't part of the curriculum. But I love the opportunity to get a degree and to experiment with higher education. I remember my first 6th grade class, and I was doing okay because I liked doing it, but things weren't going quite the way I wanted it. And then I remember one day we were out at PE, and a kid shot basketball and missed. And just in a reflex action, I jumped up and grabbed the ball and stuffed it, into the goal. And I don't know if those kids have stopped exhaling yet. There was this, wow. And then the next day, everybody in the neighborhood knew that there was a teacher at the school who could dunk a ball. And then I started finding out, the more of who you are that you let the kids in on, the better you're going to be. And then when I started telling them about growing up with Jim Crow and my travels in the South and the experiences I had in Tucson, they were just leaning forward. And I just learned that if you humanize it, the kids will want to learn. And I found out that that teaching became like an art form for me. I love going in the classroom. I try to get into a groove in my life, and that just fit right in, and it's a completing kind of thing to include all those things. And my classes, and because I've always been a performing type person, my classes that I taught, we would put together little skits and dance routines and perform them at school assemblies and at PTA meetings. So Mr. McCray's room, there was a kind of those kooks over there, that are always entertaining and doing these kind of things. And kids are naturally creative people, and I kind of learned to tap in. I have full respect for them, and most kids have called me Mr. McCray, but it was okay to call me Ernie. I didn't see that as a lack of respect. Matter of fact, I like being called by my first name because that's how I respond. Exactly. In my classrooms, we would talk about it's us. We use that word a lot, and we're just going to have a bunch of fun in here and learn a lot of things. And I always discussed how I felt about things. You know how most elementary classrooms, they have a sharing period, where kids have something from the news. Well, every day I had a piece of news I wanted to share. First of all, I'd let the kids, because sometimes the kids would bring up the same thing I was going to share. If they didn't, I would bring it up to talk about something, to get politics in, to get attitudes in. I was always accessible after school, so we could talk about how we can have a better day. That was kind of my punishment. It was keeping you after school, but it wasn't that keeping you after school and having you write, I will do good 100 times. It was like, okay, let's just talk about what happened today and how tomorrow, what can we do so you don't have to feel like you got to jump on the chandelier and swing on things? How can you stay grounded down here with the rest of us?